Hey everyone, welcome to our 15th Python tutorial in our whole Python journey, and it's time for us to kick it up a huge notch. So what we've done so far is we've covered the fundamentals of Python, Python flow control, and Python data types, but now we're going to get into the more complex and slightly confusing side of Python. There's nothing to worry about, but we're going to be starting with Python functions, and our first tutorial into the section is going to be actually called functions in Python. So throughout our programming together, I've often used the words functions, methods, and modules quite loosely and interchanging them, but that's actually incorrect and it's a little bit misleading. So it's time for me to give you guys a really proper definition of what these words are, as each of them are quite different and they're used and defined differently within Python. So before we start, it's important to understand that packages, modules, and functions are all used in Python to regulate and organize code so that we can both understand it better and reuse it later on. So with that, let's define our functions. So functions are a block of organized reusable code that is used to perform a single action. And an example obviously would be print, right? The print function, we enter in our statement or our line that we want to be printed, and it will return back our information. And we use methods all the time with lists and strings. So that's the main application of functions. And the important thing to understand there is used to perform a single function. So emphasis on the single. Next, for modules, modules are used to logically organize your Python code, and they group all related code, and they will allow us to reuse and understand our programs more easily. And to put it simply, modules are files that can define functions, classes, and variables. So classes we'll get into a little bit later in this section, but that's just a quick definition so you guys are able to differentiate later on. So now let's just get into making a quick program in which we're going to be defining functions. So let me go ahead and get started. Okay, so now that we've finished this quick program, it's time for us to just break down what's occurring. So right here we have our definition sum nums, and we're passing two arguments. So let me just break down this quick sentence right here, and what it's saying is we're using our keyword def to basically define a function, and with this function name you have to keep it unique to that program. So if you can't define another function called sum nums, otherwise there's going to be a naming conflict. And lastly, you have these two arguments right here, num1 and num2, and what arguments are, they aren't like the disagreements that you have. Arguments are variables that you pass to this method that you want the method to use and then return you some sort of value. So right here we have the num1 and num2, and these are two integer arguments, and that's because we're supplying 5 and 6 for our program to ultimately sum and return to us. So that's the last new thing that we have, our return statement, and it does exactly what it sounds like. Whenever this method is called, it will return whatever we have listed right here. So let me go ahead and run this program so you guys get a better understanding. Right, and you can see right here we're saying we're summing our numbers num1 and num2, which we have supplied, and then we will access them and return 11. So if I were to do another value and test out this program, let's just see what that gives us. Right, so in this case I am inputting our numbers 21 and 10 to our method. So it's going to go up to our method. Num1 is going to be equal to 21 and num2 will be equal to 10. And then we're going to act on them right here, printing out their values, and then ultimately adding them and returning them back to us to print. So right there, it's going to give us 31. And one last tad of information I should give you guys is that these arguments, num1 and num2, cannot be accessed outside of our method. And we'll go into this with way more depth when we discuss variable scope in our next tutorial, but I just wanted to give you guys that information so when we're doing a couple of challenges towards the end of the tutorial, you understand how exactly these arguments can be used. So now that we have a quick understanding of defining functions, we added this last block of code to show that functions, once defined, can be accessed outside of their respective code block. So let me go ahead and show you guys how it's done. Right, and you can see right here it's still able to access our function and get their wanted result. So now that we understand how to quickly define functions, I'm going to go right into our challenges. And with this, you guys should have enough information, I think, to be able to do this stuff. And it's going to be mostly reusing code that we've done in previous tutorials. So now that we know how to define and create functions, we're going to use our old challenges to create powerful reusable programs. And to start out, try making a function out of our old palindrome tester, and I believe we did that in the strings tutorial. And if you want to, you can even try to do something out of our making multiplication tables, where you convert that into a function that we can reuse often. So I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to go ahead and try out making the palindrome tester as well as the making multiplication table function if you'd like, and I will come back and show you guys how it's done. So go ahead and have fun. Okay, so I'm assuming you guys paused the tutorial and you figured out how to do it and you guys are like super duper happy. But just in case you guys didn't figure it out, I'm going to go ahead and work through it and show you guys how it can be done. So just remember, this isn't the only way, this is just how I've done it. And obviously, as long as your program works and it's efficient, that is of course the right way to do it. So let me go ahead and get started. Okay, so I've completed our palin tester program or challenge that I've given, and you can see I've kind of used all of the same code more or less, and I've simply made it into a reusable function that I can use whenever I need to. So once again, we're defining our method, and in this scenario I'm taking in one argument, and that's our user input that I will be putting into our program. And it's doing all the same stuff, reversing the word, checking if the reversed word and the user input match, and if so, it is a palindrome. If it's not, then it won't be a palindrome. So let me go ahead and show you guys what I've done with this program. And let's say I say race car. You can see it's inputting it into our method, and if it is matching, it will be, and since it is matching, it's going to return this line. So I hope that was pretty straightforward and simple to understand. If it wasn't, I guess this program could be explained with our whole string tutorial that I've done in the previous program. But with functions, you can just look up here and you can see that it matches all of our rules for functions, right? And the way we can tell it's within our function is that this indentation shows that it's part of our function, much like the indentation helps the program or the compiler identify that this statement is part of our if statement. So now that I've completed the palindrome tester, I'll go ahead and do the second part of our challenge, and that's going to be using our old multiplication table program that we've made, I think, in the algorithms program where we designed a bunch of algorithms. And I'll go ahead, and that one's a little bit more complex, but once again using a lot of the old code, and we're going to convert that into our method. So let me go ahead and work through that. Right, so now I've completed this multiplication table function, multiplication table maker function. Maybe I should have reduced the length of the name or the name in general, but you can see right here I've defined this function. We have our keyword definition, and we have our two arguments, row number and column number, and they ultimately dictate how many rows we're going to have and how many columns we're going to have. So you can see the function and the code within is the exact same as what we've done in our previous tutorial. All I've done is convert it into a function so that we can reuse it constantly just by calling this method right here. So let's go ahead and run this so you guys can see it in action and hopefully gain a little bit of a deeper understanding as to what exactly is going on right here. So enter the number of rows. I'll just say 10, And let's say I say 5 for the number of columns, and you can see the number of rows is 5 rows, and we have the number of rows is 10 rows, and we'll have 5 columns right here. So hopefully this gives you a better understanding. And one last thing I should add is you can see right here you might be a little bit confused because throughout our whole function we're not using any return statements, and I just said that, or I stated earlier, that the return statements are sort of essential to our whole function definitions. And that's the thing, kind of stretch the truth on that a little bit. With with return statements, if they are not used, it will simply return a void statement, but it's not really pretty. So whenever we're running programs, we always use a return statement because they're really more effective, and that's what are used in all functions. So whenever you think about our print statement, prints use a return, as well as all the other functions that are used throughout our Python programming. But in this case, since we're having multiple print statements, I opted to not use our return function, so it instead returned the word none back to me. So that's just how I've converted our past algorithms into reusable functions. So I hope this gave you a quick understanding about what functions are and how to define them. I've been trying to make the programs a little bit shorter. I know the last couple of ones were running like close to like 15 and 20 minutes, so hopefully, I don't know how long this video came out to be, but hopefully it's something a lot shorter. And as always, I will be linking my original programs into the link below, and I recommend you guys check out some of my previous tutorials just to get a solid base into these earlier concepts, because now we're going to be moving into a little bit more of the complex stuff, and it gets a little weird to understand sometimes, a little bit of abstract. So it's important to have your groundwork laid down and cemented properly. So hope you guys had a great day and enjoyed this tutorial. See you in the next one.